Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Ann, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What the Why. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured out that this is their purpose. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or you're looking to get unstuck, whether it's in your career, your company, or even your life. All of our guests have something in common with you. They've been through some type of pivot at some point in their lifetime to figure out what their purpose is and where they're headed. And today's guest is no exception. And this one's interesting because I remember this guest. She's a little bit younger than me, fortunate for her.
I'm
And
older. I am
but
older. Older than you?
she just looks it. But I remember when she was the model. She was one of the models, and I remembered her, and so I was super excited when she reached out to me. So Dame Clarissa Burt, who was knighted by the Royal Order of Constantine the Great and Saint Helen, joined the ranks of 350 dames worldwide. And that really is more of the exclamation point on the amazing life that she's had. Clarissa is an internationally acclaimed award-winning media personality, producer, director, writer, author, public speaker. She was a former supermodel, as I already gave that away because I had a little bit of a fangirl moment when I first met her. And she's a winner of the Celebrity Survivor show, with hundreds of television and film credits to her name. This who's who of international and American woman brings over 35 years of entertainment industry experience in both international and American markets. She's the founder and CEO of Limelight Media, a multimedia platform consisting of video, podcast, and a digital magazine. Her shows can be seen on YouTube. Her podcast is heard on 15 different distribution platforms. She's published by New York City publisher Rowman and Littlefield. Her internationally acclaimed so I'm assuming that's multiple. So Pluri award-winning best-selling book entitled The Self-Esteem Regime, or Regimen.
Regime,
Or
right?
regimen?
Regime.
It is the Self-Esteem Regime.
Yeah.
It has been on shelves in Barnes and Noble stores nationally. It's also available on Audible, as well as Amazon, Kindle. She was the first American to present Russian TV at the Kremlin. She's had 2 private audiences with former Pope John Paul II, honoring her social work. She was an ambassador to the United States. She helped African women win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011. Oh my gosh, she won the ACMID International Women's Peace Award in Rome, Italy, the Oscar della Moda for career excellence, also in Rome, Italy. She was granted the, I want to make sure I get this right, Araldo Award by Prince Albert of Monaco in September of 2024, also in Rome, Italy, as Global Ambassador of the Prince Albert II Foundation. And as I already mentioned, she's one of 350 dames worldwide. So as you can imagine, super excited to have her here. Really looking forward to our conversation. So without further ado, please join with me in welcoming Dame Clarissa Burt. So
kind.
yay.
Thank you so much. People say to me, Barbara Ann, they say, my God, you've done so much. Well, I keep saying, well, I've been around a long time. You know what I mean? I've been around a long time. It's kind of one of the perks that comes around, comes with living this long, is you get to do some really, really cool things and live, a blessed life. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah.
And like I said, I'm super excited because when I first connected with you, I'm like, I know this name. I know this name. And then I saw the pictures and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
Great times,
But
really good times.
so before all of this happened, before everything that you've accomplished, every award that you've received, the first question we always ask every guest on What the Why is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
Exactly what I became. I'll show you a picture really quickly. I usually use this in reference to something else, but I'll show it to you. That's me at 5 with my mom. I know. Can you see it all right? There you go. A little bit of.
Yes, we can see it great.
That's mom. And mom, when I was a little girl at this stage, was like, oh, never take a picture of me. I look horrible in pictures. And, my mother was a lovely looking woman, which is one of the reasons why, I can get to why I wrote the book. But when I was that age, I was Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play. And I think my rendition of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious just floored everybody. I don't know what, but I got a standing ovation, and I was hooked. I was like, I'm on stage. I've got a mic. I love the stage. So that's really where it kind of all started. I was one of those kind of kids that was always full of energy and kind of really out there. I loved to sing. I knew the words to every song on the radio. It's just. And so when I got that, my first crowning moment was Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play. I kind of had a feeling that's the way things were going to go for me. Back in the day, Barbara, you may remember, as again, I'm a little bit older than you are, but you'll remember that we had 3 television stations basically. And on Sunday mornings, we had cartoons. And then as you would get into the early afternoon, we'd have, the big movies, right?
Yes.
And so for me, it was Ava Gardner and Rita Hayworth. And these were the women that I just absolutely, they stopped me in my tracks, and so that was really another thing that was really attractive to me, was the way they were dancing, they were wearing. Then fast forward a couple of years, the Sears catalog. Well, that catalog came only twice a year, but I'm telling you, I couldn't wait to get my hands on that catalog because it meant I could go to the women's section and I could see what the clothes were and how the models were posing and what they were doing with their hair and their makeup. And that was, I already knew. It was kind of like the imprint was, the die was already cast. So when you ask me what, how it kind of started out early for me, that's where it started. I graduated high school at Watchung Hills in Central Jersey in 77, got out of there in January. So I was out a little bit earlier than everyone else. And my next big goal was to move into the city. I wanted to live in New York City. There were no ifs, ands, or buts, and I made that happen as well. And while I was in there, there were some people saying, you really should model. And of course, I had the lowest self-esteem on the planet. And I went, well, I could never, who am I to think I could ever, So it was really from the cajoling of people around me. And I thank them to this day. Some of them I remember, and some of them I couldn't even tell you what their names were. And it was, you really should model. So I tried it. And I found some testing photographers that were looking for models, and the models that were looking for pictures. And I took them to the 3, Ford, Elite, and Wilhelmina. I was taken by Elite and Wilhelmina. I chose Wilhelmina, and the rest is history. So that's kind of a really quick synopsis, or of the really, really early years. Next, I started in New York. Kind of wasn't my thing. I went to Paris. I had baby fat on me, and I was homesick. Came home for a little bit. Barbara, you got to hear this story. So I came home to New York, and I went into temp. I came home from Paris, and I went to temp. I went to a temp agency because I was already a secretary, earlier. And I said, okay, let me get into the temp thing. They took me out, and you never guess who I worked for temping. Revlon. So
wow.
Oh God. So now I'm on the 50th floor.
Okay.
I'm on the 50th floor, it's right across. It was up on one of the buildings at Central Park South, right across from the big hotels at the park, not the Park Hotel, Central Park, with the hotel that's right there in the corner. Anyway,
the Waldorf.
Yeah, probably. I can't remember. I mean, it's been a long time.
I should know, but for some reason I think it's the Waldorf Astoria, but I'm not sure.
I'm sitting there temping, and I'm on the 50th floor, so I'm in corporate, and I'm temping, and I'm looking around the walls, and there are all the supermodels on the wall. And I cannot tell you all of the different Revlon campaigns that were hanging on the walls. And I looked at it and I went, I could have kicked myself because I had already started down that path, and there was nothing that at this point that these girls were doing that at this point I went, but I could do that. But I know I could, so it was this whole, I made enough money to make another ticket to get back to Europe. And this time I went to Italy, and that's where everything started for me in 1983. But sometimes the point of all that is I tell that story to say it doesn't always happen the first time around. The passion is there, the idea is there, all the things are in place. And then what happens? You sabotage, and that's what I did. I sabotaged. So I was glad that I had the opportunity. It took me a minute to make the money to get back there, because I think, back in the day, it was over $1,000 for a round trip ticket, right, to Europe. And that was a lot of money. And
It was a lot.
In 1982, it was a lot of money. So those are the beginnings.
That is so awesome. And it's like I said, 1983.
Yeah.
I still say you look younger than me. 1983, that's when I was a freshman in high school. And so everything was about the magazines, and I subscribed to 17 and Vogue, and yes, I loved the Sears catalog, any catalog,
Yeah, exactly.
and so, and also was into the singing and the acting and the dancing, and I would see these amazing women, and I just like so many young women, I wanted to do that. I wanted to be that. And for you, that was just the beginning. I
Yeah.
mean, because you've gone on to do so many other additional amazing things. So, how did you find your way from being this famous print model? I mean, with some of the biggest names in the industry, to, you know, your book and your media empire, really.
One of the first things that comes to mind when that question is asked of me is I was really, really glad that I didn't listen to the naysayers. And by that I mean, just pick one thing and stick with it. Well, wait a minute. I have like 400 dreams, they say in Italian, they say dreams in the drawer, right? You open the drawer, you pull out another dream, and you make it. I had so much that I wanted to do. There were so many things that I felt I really wanted to do while I was on this earth. And, just pick one thing and stick to it, Well, I was never the jack of one trade, but I was a little jacky of a lot of trades, I could do a lot of things a little good, you know what I mean? And not one big thing amazingly well. And I liked that. So I too sang, and I too, was on the radio in Italy, and I had my albums, and I like all the things. And by the way, I never had an acting lesson. I never had a singing lesson. I never had a modeling lesson. It was just, I took what I was given and made the best of it. The only thing I had to get past was the idea that I wasn't good enough, or my own self-esteem. So when I told you about mom, I showed you the picture, and mom was a beautiful woman, and, oh, don't take a picture of me, I look horrible. And she was always worried about her weight, because she grew up a little bit chunky as a child, and then she thinned out beautifully. My grandmother, beautiful woman, decides she needed to lose weight, takes 2 diet pills, chokes on them, perforates her esophagus, and spends 6 weeks in the hospital. And as a child, I'm looking at these women who to me are just my everything, but their perception of themselves was not the same. Fast forward to my working with the 1% of the supermodels all over the world. I'm on every runway on the planet. I'm having that kind of a life. And I found that some of the girls that I was working with had a little bit of anorexic, bulimic, drugs, drinking, toxic relationships, all the things that young girls might go through. Some of these girls were going through. So I couldn't figure what was the correlation between mom and grandmom in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and these girls on the runways around the world. And of course, the answer is the lack of happy, healthy self-esteem. I personally can't. It really bothers me to see people suffer. I'm not really good at watching someone else suffer. And so I just felt that, the book was in me. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist nor a psychologist, but I took, some of my life lessons, if you will, and put them, and a lot of research. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot, when we were kids, there were 3 bookstores, right? It was Border Books, Walden Books, and Barnes and Noble. And that was it. In the very back, there was a little corner, and it was called Self-Help.
Yep.
And if you could get yourself, if you could find 40 books on those shelves, that was a big deal, because it wasn't really, personal development was still coming into its own, right? And it was called Self-Help in the day. Now, when you go into Barnes and Noble, and where I'm so thankful my book is on the shelves and has been for 5 years, you walk down the aisles and it's row upon row upon row upon row upon row of shelving that is now in the personal development section, which is $1 billion industry. So it just goes back to prove that we are always looking for guidance and solace and support and the reason why or the way out of our problems, right? So yeah, nothing new under the sun, but different ways of approaching it.
And more diverse. Because
Yeah.
to your point, most of those books were not written by women back in those days.
Right. That's right.
I mean, one of the first one, it was just male, 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 male. And then you finally started to have some female authors emerge.
Well, I'm right next to Brene Brown. So it's Brene Brown, Clarissa Burt, Dr. Deepak Chopra, and then Dr. Joe Dispenza. We're all on the same show.
Which is really awesome. So, see, now I have every incentive to get your book, because I have Brene Brown and I have Deepak Chopra, who I also had the honor of meeting. And so, yes, that would be great. Now I can be consistent with the end.
You talk about pinch me moments. Every time I walk into Barnes and Noble, and 5 years later, my book is still on that shelf. Pinch me, just keep pinching me, because I got to wake up. It was such a dream. And it was picked up by a New York City publisher right after COVID hit, which, when everything was shutting down, we were able to get a book deal in New York, which is another really phenomenal opportunity and crowning moments. Life is made of little crowning moments as you go. And these are all compiled into, the reasons why I allow myself and give myself permission to be proud of myself sometimes for the things that I do. And that's another major, hurdle that we have to really, so especially with women.
Yes.
We always are asking for permission. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself that you need some permission. I'll give you permission. Go. Now you have permission. Now go do, we're not here that long. We're here for a flash. So get the work done and live go live your best life.
Yeah. And I that there were so many important things that you just said there, especially since sometimes people are looking for that really significant big thing. And it can be those little crowning achievements that add up to that big thing, like a snowflake. Lots of them become a major storm.
Right.
Yeah, a major snowball.
Right.
I went right to storm. So
okay, perfect. Yeah, the perfect storm. That's fine too. Yeah, it all works. But I think, some of the things that I really like to talk to when we're talking about, the book. For me, it's like it's a manual. Because you're not going to read about self-esteem. You're going to do the work. This is a manual. You're going to, from the first chapter where it's releasing to the second chapter where you're rebuilding. We have 12 chapters in the book, and each one of them lives in its own microcosm. But for me, it's a mission. It's really, love to see this become a movement whereby we could all, the women that have, the beat from the heart and that really want to see, really want to be happy for other women's success. There's no room for jealousy in all of this. It's a very low vibrational energy. So, that kind of thing. Just, yeah, I know sometimes I get off and I babble, but I get very excited about it.
No, it's so well said, because this comes up a lot, especially with the work that I do with women. And it's interesting because when you were talking about the self-esteem issues that you saw firsthand among the women those of us who were growing up wanted to be, we would have given anything, and we didn't know at that time that that's what they were going through. We saw them as these ideals and perfection, and they didn't see that. They didn't feel
Have the
that.
opportunity. Our mothers and grandmothers didn't have the opportunity. That
Right.
they were to get married and have children, and that was it. There were very little in the way of opportunities. You know, we were born in that sweet spot whereby we had the Gloria Steinems of the world. You know, we had the Bella Abzugs, we had the women that were really working toward you know, more freedoms for women. And I watched it, you watched it. And that's where, again, we really were born in that sweet spot of being able to come off of our, you know, our mother's coattails and stand on their shoulders, you know, and say thank you, and then go on to do great things for the really hard work that they put into making the changes that need to be made.
So let's delve more into the work that you've done, especially around helping women with their self-esteem, because I know that that's something that you're really passionate about now.
Yeah,
What would you say are some of the key
I'm not good enough.
similarities?
I'm not
Yeah,
good enough. Everybody, I'm not
yeah.
good enough. I'm not good enough. Who am I? And, you know, how could I ever? And who do I think I am? And I'm not good enough. And, you know, and that's usually followed by I'm not loved and wasn't wanted. And, you know, so it's really comes kind of back to I'm not good enough. And the interesting thing about I'm not good enough, or, you know, we are enough, we're all enough, everybody's enough. I looked up the definition of the word enough, and it is only as much as is required.
Mm,
Only as much as is required. So just by definition, the word enough isn't enough. So the new mantra has now become, as opposed to I am enough, the new mantra is now I am so much more than enough. You
yeah.
know, that's the one everybody needs to write down and put on, you know, by their computer on their, you know, their makeup mirror. You know, that's the one that we need to be chanting. And come back to me in 21 days and tell me how you feel after that. The other
Mm,
thing I think that you know, we hear the word birthright a lot. What does it really mean? Okay, it's your birthright. Okay, great. What does that mean? It's kind of one of those things that kind of goes over your head, and it's there, but it's a word. And what does it really mean? Well, it means you deserve to live in a peaceful home, live in a peaceful environment, live in a peaceful existence. You deserve to be here. You are not an accident, right? And a lot of, you know, I know that I was an oops baby back in the, you know, my parents weren't even married yet. It was oops, now you got to get married kind of thing. You
mm,
deserve to be here because you, again, you're not an accident. You deserve to be loved. You know, you deserve to love and be loved. And a lot of people do not feel that way. And, you know, you can talk to a lot of people when you finally get to their inner child, if you can get that far with a lot of people, because so many people are so shut down, you'll find that that's really one of the main reasons they are living a suffered life. You know, you have the absolute right to feel your joy, your grief, your rage, your ecstasy, all the things, and not to apologize for feeling any of them, to speak your truth. You know, I mean, I cannot tell you how many times, even in the when I was a child, you remember how many times we were told, you know, to be seen and not heard. I don't know about you, but I was. And so to be able to express yourself and to stand tall in your convictions is a huge thing that for your birthright to be able to evolve, to be able to say yes or no. That's your birthright. To be, yeah, yes, it's many other things, but your birthright from very early on is I can say yes to this, I can say no to this. Obviously, it depends a lot on how you're taught and what you're taught, but you can always change that down the road should you need. Also, your birthright is that, you know, to be able to rest. We couldn't do that in my house when I was a kid. You had to be up on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock in that house. You're going to work on that house inside and out until it was sparkling clean. I think that's great too, because I think you also need to be treating, you know, teaching kids how to do these things. But in our case, it was a little more. There was you could never sit. There was no time to rest. Very little, if that. And you, again, you need to be, you know, you have the right to be seen, to be heard, to be celebrated. So when you talk about birthright, it's like, wait a minute, I don't even have to ask for those things. I don't even have to fight for those things. Like, what are we talking about? Those things are my birthright. So I think that that was something that was kind of interesting to sort of throw into the mix, because we're still asking for permission for the things that are our right.
yes, literally by the fact that we are, depending on your beliefs, either created or made.
Yes.
Love, unconditionally, acceptance, all of the things that you just touched on.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That people don't feel worthy of because of experiences that were passed on to them by people who had those experiences, who would
Generational
pass,
trauma.
you know,
Yep.
yes, with the generational trauma, some cultures call it generational curses, whatever the words,
Mhm.
you know, so much of the work I do is actually very overlaps into this
Yeah.
because
I'm deep.
yeah, it's at their core, and they're even finding now that it can be passed through DNA. And so what you're doing is so important, especially as someone, because the age group that we're in, that 20-year time span of those who were born in the 70s, the 60s, late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, uh, all had this ideal. This was like the real first time that we had. I'll never forget when MTV premiered, but to your point, we had the catalogs. We had Leave It
Yeah.
to Beaver and the Brady Bunch and these ideals of perfection, which is probably why I liked I Love Lucy so much.
I do too. A
Because
lot of
she so wasn't.
watch it. I mean, she comes through on TikTok all the time. I just, I have to stop and watch.
You know, and
Yeah.
I still could
Yeah.
go back and I could appreciate, oh my gosh, what she did for her time and
Yeah.
how she made so many of us feel a little bit more normal.
Yeah.
Um,
To your point about the belief systems, the things that we were taught is one of the first things we talk about, because the first chapter is release. So what were you taught? What you think was etched in stone because it was what was passed on to you, and the belief systems from our ancestors. I mean, is it yours or was it passed on? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it really you? So when you find, and to do the work in personal development that I talk about, it's going to take a lot of courage. That is keyword number one. And you're going to get some people's noses out of joint. Some people are going to get annoyed, and others are going to get pissed off, and others are going to, downright shut the door. You have to move on as you move into the second chapter, which is rebuild, to build the life that you want for yourself. And when I say that, there are a lot of people that say, well, listen, you're going to take over the family business. And I love you for that, mom and dad. Thanks a lot. But it's just not what I want to do. How many people got caught in that lovely conundrum to be in? Don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't for them. They didn't have that calling and they wanted to be true to themselves. That causes a rift, right? That's an issue. So
mhm.
anyway, yeah.
No, this is really important because it's interesting. It's something that I've even talked about in my own interviews on other podcasts because growing up in a hyper religious household, on
Yes.
top of seeing those opportunities, I can look back at certain things that I wanted to do and was told, no, no,
Yeah.
you're going to go do this. You're too smart for that. Well,
Yeah.
that implies that that doesn't take intelligence,
Exactly.
and things like that. And so many people can relate to that. And so
How
part
did
of what
you?
I'm hearing you say is, and one of the things that I've talked to people about is extricating yourself from those relationships that
Yeah.
want to minimize what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, you may have to extricate yourself for a time. I am always of the thought that you cannot heal in the environment that hurt you. And you cannot heal in the environment that is oppressing you.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yes, there are going to be times, as I said before, the work that you may need to affront is not always going to be comfortable. And you need to be comfortable with the discomfort for a minute until things will shift. Normally they will shift and you'll be just fine. But again, we have to live our lives for who we are and how we can live our greater selves or better selves, a greater life for ourselves and for others. The other thing I like to talk about is taking the high road, and that's a really hard thing for some people to do. When you want to live in honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor, but taking the high road, that's a tall order for a lot of people. It's something that a lot of people can. That's the 1%. That's what we want to be striving for. When you have a value system, and I say, give me 4 or 5 of what's your value system. Most people have heard it, don't really know what it is, what your value system, and there's a huge list. You can go look it up. It's your blueprint.
Mhm.
It's your blueprint for life. These are the boundaries that you create. This is the toxic stops here stuff. This is, I will now teach you how I will and will not be treated and expect the same from me. So when you start moving into these kind of power moves, and they're power moves and meant that they're powerful as you become a powerful, more powerful human being. Self-confidence, for example, confidence, right? Confidere, which is from Latin and Italian. As you know, I lived in Italy for a very long time, and I speak, fluent Italian. Confidere, it means with trust. Put self in front of that. Now you have trust in self, right? That's self-confidence. When you get to the point that you can trust your decisions, you can trust when you go on to an interview, you can go when you go into an event, when you're running, the boardroom, you can trust yourself to make the right decisions for your life. And be flexible and malleable enough to know when it's time to change some of those decisions, right? Because not every decision you're going to make is going to last for a lifetime. Some are for a season, some are for a reason, and some are for a lifetime, just like love relationships, right? So there you go. That's another really huge part of what I talk about.
And believe it or not, we're running up against time.
Mm.
And I have so many more questions for you. At some point, would love to have you back
Yeah.
as a guest to talk more, especially once, because I got to read the synopsis, but I haven't read the whole. And I have so many more questions for you. I admit, like I said, spent the first couple minutes just fangirling and, and being nostalgic back to my
Yeah,
youth.
yeah, it's nice to remember.
But as we come to a close, you've pointed out so many different quotable things that it could really help them. What would be your parting advice or suggestion for the many people who are watching, many of whom really the fear of change is still stronger than the fear of staying where they are?
Oh, it's the most exciting part. There is so much excitement in this work, and the work of personal development, the work of discovering yourself, the work of finding out all the possibilities of who you can be. Again, create the blueprint. That's where chapter 2 comes in so great, because that's the rebuild part. And it's okay, this is the life I want to live. How am I going to do that? What are the steps that I need to take in order to do that? And remember, this is called work for a reason. And I like to use the word loosely, work, loosely, because it's not like, drudgery. It's not going to be easy all the time. You are going to get, caught up, and you're going to get, you may shed a tear, a tear or two, let it all happen. It's all part of the process. What I do like to say is, to remember always that your present situation is not your final destination, right? A lot of people get stuck and they go, this is too much, I can't. Don't give up on yourself like that. What are we talking about? Like, all that is knowing and all that is great created you. I think they knew what they were doing when they did that. And everybody's path is completely different. Don't be looking at Susie Q. Don't be looking at Johnny. That's not what, we're not doing that. That's not what we're doing. I talk often really quickly. I talk really very frequently about self-esteem 101 is never compare yourself to anybody else. So when we're looking at the Joneses and the grass is greener on the other side, well, is the grass really greener on the other side, or is it astroturf? Right? In other words, is it fake? Is it plastic? Is it not real? Second thought, is the grass really greener on the other side, or is the grass always greener where you water it? So bring that stuff back home, bring it back to you. Don't be worried. And by the way, if their grass is lush and green and fabulous, be happy for them. They have a successful lawn. Bring it back to you, bring it back home and start doing the work on yourself. They don't have one darn thing that you don't have. So, and don't be even worried about that. Be happy for them. Bring it back home. The other thing I like to leave people with is loyalty is loyalty is when I have your back behind your back. So find five good friends in a lifetime that you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning that are your ride or dies, and you are a very rich human being. And the 4 things that you can't get back in life, I'll leave you with, Barbara Ann, if that's okay. And that is, they are the things you can't get back in life are the word after it is said, an opportunity after it is missed, time after it's gone, and trust after it is lost.
That is a true, I won't drop it, but mic drop moment. Boop, mic drop moment. It has been an honor to have you on. I really do want you to come back. I'm going to be really curious to see what kind of response we get to this episode.
So much.
And so thank you so much. For those who don't know, this has been a long time coming. So super
Here it
excited. And there's the book
Yep.
available. Barnes
Yep.
and Noble, Amazon, on Audible. You can get this book, and it's got the little seal on it.
Guys, it's
So yes, totally worth the investment, and both from getting the book as well as the investment and actually exploring it and absorbing the wisdom that Dame Clarissa Burt has imparted as part of her own experience in helping all of us to work through not perpetuating the limiting beliefs that were sometimes impressed upon us
Yeah.
through no fault of anybody.
Right. You got it.
Thank you so much for your time. Again, it really has been an honor. And as for our audience, I told you that we have amazing guests. I love doing this as a podcast. I know this is our 4th season, but man, we are really kicking it up a notch, and that is not in any way meant to minimize the first 3 seasons, but the ability to spread to a broader audience is really exciting. And please tell if you have so many viewing choices these days, so many. So if you're benefiting from this and you're enjoying these conversations, please share it with somebody else who can also benefit from these conversations. And also, please remember, whether you are looking to make changes in your life, no matter how big or small, join us again for more exciting, illuminating, fangirlish conversations with guests such as Dame Clarissa Burt, who overcame her own challenges to figure out her core purpose and to live it.